The billionaire CEO couldn't hide her smile. "So, you're my blind date?" she asked, glancing at the poor single dad's faded jacket and worn work boots. The people around them quietly laughed. He didn't argue. He simply smiled, stood up, and prepared to leave. Then something unbelievable happened. A little 6-year-old boy suddenly dropped his toy. His tiny hands began to shake. Tears filled his eyes. He stared at the poor stranger for 3 long seconds, then ran across the luxury restaurant as fast as he could, throwing himself into the man's arms. "Daddy!" The laughter disappeared. Every table fell silent. The billionaire froze, because she had never seen this man before. And according to every official record, her son's father had died 6 years ago. So why was her little boy crying in the arms of a complete stranger? What no one inside that restaurant knew was that the quiet single dad wasn't just a struggling mechanic. He was a retired Navy SEAL, living under a new identity, and the secret connecting him to that little boy had been buried by some of the most powerful people in America. Tonight, that secret was about to come back to life. Seattle, 7:08 p.m. Rain fell steadily over the city, turning every streetlight into shimmering gold across the wet pavement. Luxury cars lined the entrance of the Royal Crescent, the most exclusive restaurant in downtown Seattle. Inside, politicians, celebrities, and billionaires enjoyed expensive dinners while a pianist filled the room with soft jazz. At the entrance, a man hesitated before opening the glass door. His name was Jack Walker, 38 years old, 6'2", broad shoulders, strong hands roughened by years of hard work. His faded navy jacket had been washed so many times that its original color was almost gone. His brown work boots carried fresh grease stains from the auto garage where he had spent the entire day repairing delivery trucks. Beside him stood his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. She wore a simple blue dress beneath a small yellow raincoat. Her long brown hair was tied into 2 neat braids. She looked up at her father with the biggest smile. "Dad." Jack looked down. "Yeah, sweetheart. You look handsome." He laughed. "This old jacket." She nodded confidently. "Mom always said handsome people don't need expensive clothes." For a second, Jack's smile faded. Emily, his wife. She had been gone for 6 years. Cancer had taken her only 3 weeks after Lily's first birthday. Since then, Jack had been mother, father, best friend, and protector. He knelt beside Lily. "You remember the rules?" She smiled. "Always be polite. And never judge people." Jack gently touched her forehead. "Good girl." He had repeated those words to her almost every day. Not because the world was kind. Because he knew it wasn't. The hostess opened the restaurant door. "Good evening, Mr. Jack Walker." Jack nodded. "Your reservation is ready." Lily looked surprised. "Dad, this place looks expensive." Jack smiled. "It is." "Then why are we here?" He scratched the back of his neck. "Because Uncle Mike signed me up for one of those online dating websites." Lily's eyes became huge. "You have a date?" Jack laughed nervously. "I guess I do." She clapped excitedly. "You deserve one." Jack smiled. "I hope she thinks so too." Across the restaurant, Sophia Carter adjusted the sleeve of her white designer blazer while checking the time on her diamond watch. 35. CEO of Carter Technologies. Net worth, $4.8 billion. Forbes magazine called her one of the most powerful women in America. She hated blind dates. Tonight was no different. Her assistant had promised. "He's successful, kind, different from the usual businessmen." Sophia sighed. "If he's another hedge fund manager." "I'm leaving." Her 6-year-old son, Noah, sat in the children's lounge beside the restaurant. He colored quietly while the babysitter watched him. Unlike most billionaire children, Noah hardly spoke. Since his father's death, he had become strangely quiet. Sometimes, he woke up crying from dreams he could never explain. Back at the entrance, Jack crouched beside Lily. You'll stay in the children's room." She hugged him tightly. "Don't be nervous." Jack laughed. "I've negotiated with angry customers all week. I think I'll survive one dinner." Lily whispered, "Just be yourself." He smiled. "I always am." The hostess led Jack through the restaurant. Every expensive suit, every elegant dress, every polished table, made his old work jacket stand out even more. Several wealthy guests looked him up and down. One man quietly whispered, "Wrong restaurant." Another smirked. The mechanic must be lost. Jack ignored every word. He had learned years ago. Confidence was quieter than pride. The hostess stopped beside Sophia's table. "Ms. Carter, your guest has arrived." Sophia looked up from her phone. For 3 long seconds, she simply stared. Then, she laughed. Not loudly, but loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "This is him." The hostess nodded politely. "Yes." Sophia looked Jack up and down. The faded jacket, grease-stained boots, calloused hands. She leaned back. "There has to be some mistake." Jack smiled politely. "I'm Jack." She didn't shake his hand. Instead, she folded her arms. "So, you're my blind date?" Jack nodded once. "I believe so." She laughed again. "My assistant told me she found someone successful." Jack calmly answered, "Depends how you define success." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "What do you do?" "I repair cars." Silence. Then quiet laughter echoed from nearby tables. Sophia couldn't hide her disappointment. "So, you're a mechanic?" Jack nodded. "Yes." She looked around the luxurious restaurant. "You know, I've spent more on tonight's wine than most people spend on a car." More laughter. Jack remained calm. He simply pulled out his chair. "If you'd rather I leave." "I understand." Sophia looked surprised. "You aren't offended?" Jack smiled gently. "My daughter taught me something." "What?" "People who judge strangers usually tell you more about themselves than about the stranger." For the first time, Sophia didn't know what to say. Before either of them could speak again, a tiny voice echoed across the restaurant. "Daddy." Everyone turned. Little Noah stood frozen near the hallway. His toy dinosaur slipped from his hands. Tears filled his eyes. He stared directly at Jack. His breathing became faster. Then, suddenly, he ran. Past the waiters. Past shocked guests. Straight toward Jack Walker. "Daddy!" He threw both arms around Jack's waist. The restaurant became completely silent. Jack froze. Sophia jumped to her feet. "Noah! What are you doing?" But Noah only hugged Jack tighter. His tiny shoulders shook as he cried. "I knew you'd come back." Jack slowly knelt. His voice was soft. "Buddy, I think you've mistaken me for someone else." Noah looked into Jack's eyes. "No, I know you." Sophia's heart pounded. Her husband, Captain Michael Carter, had died 6 years ago during a classified military mission. Noah had never met him. He had only seen photographs. So why was he looking at a complete stranger? Like he had finally found his father? At that exact moment, neither Sophia nor Jack noticed the man sitting alone in the far corner. He quietly took a photograph of Jack with his phone. Then he whispered into a hidden earpiece. "We've found him." The color drained from his face as he looked at Jack. Because according to every classified military file in Washington, Jack Walker was supposed to be dead. The restaurant remained completely silent. Even the pianist had stopped playing. Dozens of wealthy guests stared at the unbelievable scene unfolding before them. Little Noah clung tightly to Jack Walker as though he had found someone he had spent his entire life searching for. "Daddy, please don't leave again." Jack slowly knelt until he was eye level with the little boy. His deep hazel eyes softened. "Buddy, I think you've mistaken me for someone else." Noah immediately shook his head. No. I know your voice. Jack froze. My voice. The little boy nodded through his tears. I heard it before. In my dreams. A strange chill ran down Jack's spine. He had faced enemy snipers, bomb explosions, hostage rescues. Yet nothing had unsettled him like those 5 simple words. Sophia hurried over and gently pulled Noah back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She looked embarrassed as dozens of phones quietly appeared around the restaurant. People were already recording. Sir. My son has been having nightmares for almost 2 years. He dreams about someone coming home. Jack looked at Noah. What kind of dreams? Before Sophia could answer, Noah spoke first. A soldier. He always tells me. Be brave, little man. Jack's heart skipped a beat. That exact sentence, those exact words, was something only one man had ever said. His best friend, Captain Michael Carter. 7 years earlier. Afghanistan. Ghost Unit 7. Jack and Michael had survived impossible missions together. Whenever villagers' children became frightened, Michael would kneel beside them and smile. Be brave, little man. Jack hadn't heard those words since the day Michael disappeared. Official reports later claimed Captain Michael Carter had died during the mission. Jack never believed it, but he had buried the question deep inside his heart. Now, a 6-year-old boy, who had never met Michael, had repeated the exact words. Jack slowly looked toward Sophia. Your husband's name was Michael Carter. Sophia's eyes widened. How do you know that? Jack remained silent. He realized he had already said too much. Across the restaurant, the mysterious man in the dark suit quietly left through the emergency exit. Outside, rain poured heavily across Seattle. He climbed into a black SUV. Another man waited behind the wheel. Is it him? The passenger nodded. No doubt. The child recognized him. The driver looked confused. That shouldn't be possible. It isn't. But it happened. He removed a secure satellite phone. One sentence. We've located Walker. A deep voice answered from the other side. Bring him in. If he resists. A long pause. Then eliminate him. The call disconnected. Inside the restaurant, Lily quietly walked toward Jack after leaving the children's lounge. She smiled politely at Noah. Hi. I'm Lily. Noah wiped away his tears. I'm Noah. Lily looked at Jack. Who's your friend? Jack smiled awkwardly. I just met him. Noah immediately answered. No. We've met before. Sophia looked confused. Noah, you've never seen this man. The little boy shook his head. Not here. In my dreams. Everyone around the table exchanged nervous looks. A few minutes later, Sophia suggested moving into one of the restaurant's private lounges. Away from curious guests. Away from cameras. Once the door closed, silence filled the room. Sophia finally looked directly at Jack. I owe you an apology. Jack smiled faintly. For laughing at you. She lowered her eyes. I judged you before you even spoke. Jack shrugged. It happens. No. It shouldn't. She took a deep breath. I've spent years telling people never to judge appearances. And I failed my own lesson. Jack looked toward the rain outside. My wife used to say something. Sophia waited. Real wealth isn't what's in your wallet. It's what's in your heart. For the first time in years, Sophia felt embarrassed by her own success. She had spent billions building companies. Yet the poorest man she had met in years possessed something money couldn't buy. Peace. Just then, Noah reached into his small backpack. I want to show you something. He unfolded a crumpled drawing. It showed a little boy standing beside 2 soldiers. One soldier's face looked exactly like Jack. The second soldier's face had been scribbled out. Above them, a black eagle inside a silver shield. Jack's face turned pale. Ghost Unit 7. They're classified insignia. Impossible. Who drew this? I did. Who told you about this symbol? No one. I always see it. When I sleep. Jack slowly stood. His breathing became heavier. There were only 18 people in the entire world who had ever seen that insignia. 12 were officially dead. 5 had disappeared. And Jack was supposed to have died 6 years earlier. So how could Noah know it? Sophia noticed the fear in Jack's eyes. What does it mean? Jack folded the paper. You need to keep Noah safe. What? If anyone asks about this drawing, burn it. Sophia stared at him. Jack. What's happening? Before he could answer, his phone vibrated. Unknown number. He answered carefully. A cold voice spoke. You should have stayed dead, Commander Walker. Jack's entire body became still. Only one group of people had ever called him Commander. Ghost Unit 7. The line disconnected. Jack looked toward the restaurant entrance. A black SUV had just stopped outside. 2 men stepped out, both wearing dark suits, both looking directly toward the restaurant. Jack whispered, They found me. Jack's eyes never left the 2 men standing beside the black SUV. Rain continued falling across the restaurant windows, but inside, everything suddenly felt silent. They found me, he whispered. Sophia frowned. Who found you? Jack didn't answer immediately. Instead, he grabbed Lily's small hand. Lily, stay close to me. The little girl immediately sensed the change in her father's voice. Normally, Jack spoke softly, patiently. But now, every word sounded like an order. The same voice that had once commanded elite Navy SEAL operators in combat. Sophia noticed it too. This wasn't the humble mechanic she had laughed at 30 minutes earlier. This man moved differently. His eyes scanned every exit, every reflection in the restaurant windows, every person entering the lobby, like someone trained to survive. Outside, the 2 men never entered. They simply watched. One quietly raised his phone. A single photograph. Jack. Sophia. Noah. Lily. Click. The picture was instantly encrypted and transmitted. Thousands of miles away. Inside an underground operations room outside Washington, D.C., a giant monitor lit up. A gray-haired man wearing a perfectly tailored black suit slowly stood from his chair. His name was General Victor Kane. Officially, he had retired 5 years ago. Unofficially, he still controlled the classified network once known as Ghost Unit 7. He stared at Jack's photograph, then smiled. So, the ghost is alive. One of his assistants looked confused. Sir. The Pentagon declared Commander Walker dead 6 years ago. Victor slowly folded his hands. They declared many things. Not all of them were true. He turned toward another officer. Activate Protocol Black. The room instantly became silent. One young analyst hesitated. Sir. Protocol Black has never been used inside the United States. Victor's expression never changed. There's a first time for everything. Back in Seattle, Jack slowly guided everyone toward the restaurant's private exit. Sophia finally stopped him. Jack, tell me what's happening. He looked directly into her eyes. You trusted me enough to sit at the same table. Now I'm asking you to trust me one more time. She nodded. Fine. What do I do? You take Noah. You go home. You lock every door. And don't open it for anyone. Sophia's heartbeat quickened. You're frightening me. Jack answered quietly. You should be. Outside, the rain had become heavier. Jack opened the passenger door of his old pickup truck. Lily. Seatbelt. She climbed inside without asking questions. She knew her father well enough to recognize danger. Sophia loaded Noah into her luxury SUV. Before closing the door, the little boy looked back. Jack. Jack smiled. Yeah, buddy. Will I see you again? Jack hesitated, then nodded. I'll make sure you do. Noah smiled. I knew you'd say that. Sophia watched the exchange carefully. Every instinct told her something impossible connected these two. She simply couldn't understand what. Both vehicles pulled away from the restaurant. Exactly 3 seconds later, the black SUV followed. Not behind Sophia. Behind Jack. Jack noticed immediately. He checked the rearview mirror once. Then again. Same distance. Same headlights. Professional surveillance. Not ordinary criminals. Lily quietly looked out the window. Dad. Are they following us? Jack smiled gently. What makes you think that? They've turned every time we turned. Jack looked into the mirror again. His daughter was right. He sighed quietly. You've been paying attention. She shrugged. You taught me. Jack couldn't help smiling. Even now. She remembered every lesson. Always know who's behind you. Instead of driving toward home, Jack turned onto Interstate 5. The SUV stayed behind him. He exited. So did they. He entered downtown traffic. They followed again. No doubt remained. They weren't guessing. They were hunting. Jack whispered under his breath. Professional. Lily looked confused. What? Nothing. But inside, his military instincts had fully awakened. 6 years of peaceful life. Gone in one night. Across town. Sophia couldn't stop thinking about Jack. She replayed every word he had spoken. Every movement. Every expression. A mechanic didn't notice surveillance vehicles. A mechanic didn't instinctively protect exits. A mechanic didn't recognize classified military symbols. She suddenly grabbed her phone. Daniel. Her attorney answered immediately. Yes. I don't want public records anymore. I want classified records. Daniel became silent. Sophia. Those aren't easy to access. I don't care. I want to know who Jack Walker really is. Daniel quietly answered. I think you're about to discover something America was never supposed to remember. Daniel Morris had spent 28 years protecting billionaires. But the moment Sophia asked for classified military records, he became unusually quiet. Finally, he spoke. Sophia. If what I'm about to tell you is true, you'll wish you'd never asked. Sophia looked out across the Seattle skyline. I've already lost my husband. I almost lost my son. I deserve the truth. Daniel nodded slowly. I'll make a few calls. Meanwhile, Jack deliberately avoided driving toward his apartment. Instead, he headed toward an abandoned industrial district near the Seattle harbor. The roads were almost empty. The rain had become heavier. The black SUV stayed exactly 4 car lengths behind him. Professional. Patient. Disciplined. Jack smiled to himself. They're military. Lily looked over. What? Nothing, sweetheart. He reached over and gently squeezed her hand. No matter what happens, I need you to trust me. She nodded immediately. I always do. Jack's heart broke a little. That simple sentence reminded him exactly why he had walked away from the military. Everything he had ever done was for her. The old pickup suddenly turned into an abandoned shipping yard. Rows of rusted cargo containers stretched into the darkness. Tower cranes stood silently against the rainy night sky. Jack stopped the truck. The black SUV slowed, then stopped nearly 100 feet away. Its headlights remained on. Neither vehicle moved. Lily whispered, Dad. I'm scared. Jack smiled calmly. Good. She blinked. Good. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing the right thing while you're afraid. She smiled weakly. Mom used to say that. Jack looked toward the rain-covered windshield. I know. The doors of the black SUV finally opened. 2 men stepped out. Both wore dark tactical jackets. Both moved with military precision. One was tall with close-cropped gray hair. The other was younger. Broad shoulders. cold green eyes. Neither man reached for a weapon. That alone told Jack something important. They wanted him alive. The older man stopped several feet away. "Commander Walker." Jack remained silent. "You've been difficult to find." "I wasn't hiding." The man smiled. "No. You were surviving." For several seconds, neither moved. Finally, Jack asked, "What does Victor Kane want?" The older man's smile disappeared. "So, you still remember the general?" "I remember everyone who betrayed my team." The younger operative exchanged a quick glance with his partner. Jack had just confirmed everything they needed to know. Across town, Sophia arrived home with Noah. Before stepping inside, she noticed something unusual. The security guard normally stationed outside the front gate was gone. Her heartbeat quickened. She immediately pressed the emergency alarm on her phone. Within seconds, private security teams rushed toward the property. Only then did she breathe again. Noah quietly held her hand. "Mom, what's wrong?" She forced a smile. "Nothing." But she knew better. Someone had already started watching her family. Back at the harbor, the older operative slowly reached into his jacket. Lily instinctively grabbed Jack's arm. Jack gently moved her behind him. The man noticed. "Relax. I'm not armed." Instead of a weapon, he removed an old photograph. Rain fell across its faded surface. He handed it toward Jack. Jack looked down. His breathing stopped. The photograph had been taken 12 years earlier. Ghost Unit 7. 18 operators standing together after completing their final classified mission. Jack stood in the front row. Beside him, Captain Michael Carter, Sophia's late husband. And behind them, General Victor Kane. Every face in the photograph had been crossed out with red ink, except Jack's. Written beneath it, in black marker, were 6 chilling words. "The last ghost must return." Jack slowly folded the photograph. "What does that mean?" The older operative answered quietly. "It means the war never ended." Jack looked directly into his eyes. "It ended the day innocent men died." "No. It only changed battlefields." Suddenly, a loud ringtone echoed through the silent harbor. The younger operative answered his encrypted phone. His expression instantly changed. "What? When?" He looked toward Jack, then toward the older man. "They've moved early." The older operative frowned. "Who?" The younger man's voice became tense. "The second team. They're heading to Walker's apartment." Jack's entire body froze. His apartment. Lily's bedroom. Every childhood photo. Everything she loved. Without another word, Jack sprinted toward his pickup truck. Lily climbed inside before he even opened the passenger door. The engine roared to life. The older operative shouted, "Walker, if you go there now, you'll be too late." Jack never looked back. The pickup truck disappeared into the rain at full speed. The older operative watched the taillights vanish, then quietly whispered, "Good luck, Commander." Across the city, Sophia's phone suddenly rang. Daniel's voice sounded terrified. "Sophia, I found the classified file. And it proves Jack Walker didn't die 6 years ago." Sophia held her breath. Daniel continued. "He volunteered to disappear. To protect one child." Sophia frowned. "What child?" There was a long silence. Then Daniel whispered the words that changed everything. "According to the sealed file, that child was Noah." Sophia's face turned completely white. At that exact moment, a black SUV slowly rolled to a stop outside Jack Walker's apartment. The black SUV stopped silently outside Jack Walker's apartment. 4 men stepped out. Dark tactical clothing, earpieces, professional movements. They weren't thieves. They weren't ordinary criminals. They had come for one reason. Jack Walker. Across the city, Jack's old pickup roared through the rain faster than it ever had before. Lily looked at her father. "Dad, they're going to our home, aren't they?" Jack nodded. "They won't touch you." His voice carried the same confidence it once had on battlefields thousands of miles away. For the first time in years, Commander Jack Walker was back. At the apartment building, the four men quietly entered the hallway. One placed a small electronic device against Jack's apartment door. Click. The lock opened. Just as they stepped inside, red and blue lights suddenly flooded the parking lot. Dozens of black SUVs surrounded the building. FBI agents poured out from every direction. Federal agents. "Nobody move." The four men reached for hidden weapons. Within seconds, they were surrounded. Not one escaped. Sophia stepped out of the lead SUV beside Daniel Morris. She looked toward the arrested men. They were after Jack. Daniel nodded. And they were too late. Moments later, Jack's pickup pulled into the parking lot. He immediately jumped out and ran toward Lily's apartment door. Sophia called his name. "Jack." He stopped. She held up the classified military file. "I know the truth." Jack remained silent. She slowly walked closer. "My husband didn't die because of an accident." Jack lowered his eyes. "No. He sacrificed himself. He saved me. And he saved Noah." Sophia's voice trembled. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Jack looked toward the rain. "Because Michael made me promise." "What promise?" "If anything happened to him, I would protect his family, without ever becoming part of it." Sophia could barely breathe. "For 6 years. You watched over us?" Jack nodded. "From a distance. I made sure Noah's schools were safe. I made anonymous donations whenever your foundation helped military families. I even stopped 2 threats you never knew existed." Sophia stared at him in disbelief. "You protected us, and never expected a thank you." Jack smiled softly. "That's what brothers do." Little Noah suddenly ran across the parking lot. He threw his arms around Jack again. This time, Jack hugged him back. Noah smiled through happy tears. "I knew you weren't gone." Jack gently brushed the boy's hair. "No, I was just keeping my promise." Sophia finally understood. Noah had never recognized Jack because he was his biological father. He recognized him because, as a baby, Jack had carried him through explosions during the mission that took Michael's life. Children often forget faces, but they never forget the feeling of safety. Somewhere deep inside, Noah had remembered the man who once carried him to safety. 3 months later, federal investigators uncovered every secret connected to Ghost Unit 7. General Victor Kane and the corrupt officials responsible for covering up the operation were arrested. The classified files were finally declassified. For the first time, America learned the truth about the forgotten soldiers who had protected their country. Jack was offered medals, money, a senior government position. He quietly declined them all. "I already have the only job I ever wanted." He looked at Lily. Being her dad. 1 year later, Sophia stood beside Jack at the opening of the Walker Family Veterans and Single Parents Foundation. Instead of building another corporate headquarters, she had invested hundreds of millions of dollars into helping struggling single parents, military families, widows, and children who had lost loved ones in service. A bronze plaque stood at the entrance. It didn't mention wealth. It didn't mention military rank. It simply read, "True heroes don't ask to be remembered. They simply choose to protect others." Lily smiled. "So, does this mean we're one family now?" Sophia laughed through tears. "I hope so." Jack looked at Noah. "What do you think?" The little boy smiled exactly as he had the night they first met. "I've known since the beginning." Jack laughed. "Known what?" Noah reached for Jack's hand. "That heroes aren't the ones who wear suits. They're the ones who stay." Jack squeezed the little boy's hand. Sophia reached for Lily's. The 4 of them walked toward the foundation together. not because fate had forced them, but because love, loyalty, and one promise between two soldiers had created a family stronger than blood. As the sun rose over Seattle, Jack looked at the people he loved. For the first time in many years, the former Navy SEAL wasn't thinking about the past. He was thinking about the future. And he knew the greatest mission of his life had never been winning a war. It had been raising a daughter, keeping a promise, and proving that the richest hearts are often found inside the poorest people.